My name's Guy Kestivan. I've been riding Ard Rock Enduro since it was just a couple of easy ups outside the Dales Bike Centre. Today we're at the top of stage 1 with aristocratic artisan rayfish frame builder Rafi Richardson.
Oh, hello.
Mr. SRAM Club 18 to 30 party himself, Alex Rafferty. Sir, marshalling.
Hello. Just about to get me bib on.
Get your bib on, there's the attitude.
Bib on.
And the rest of the pre-ride crew, Ryan, Chads, Andy and Lauren. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, what you probably want to know. I'm on the new 2025 Trek Top Fuel. So where better to test what's meant to be a upgraded downcountry bike than the beautiful trails of Swaledale. Usual pre-ride warning, we're doing this as lead marshals. The courses are only open for the event, so do not come up here and ride them outside the Ard Rock weekend, or the future of the event is in jeopardy. So get signed up early, the tickets sell out super fast, and if you can't get on, get a marshalling gig for next year. It's a cracking day out anyway, and you'll get preferential entry for races after that. That's about it, isn't it? Have we done all the health and safety?
Yeah,
Al?
mate, all done.
Right, let's get fueled up and have a top ride. Right, so Top Fuel, super popular bike last year. Well, since it came out, won a load of Bike of the Year plaudits from all sorts of people, Pink Bike and other magazines. And as you might expect, alright, they haven't actually changed much. They're very much on the, like a lot of people now, they're on the, if it ain't broken, there's no need to massively fix it. So, geometry, certainly seat angle, certainly head angle, is where it was before, more or less. 65.5, comes in a low setting as standard. That gives you a seat angle around 76 degrees, depending on how high you have the saddle height. And then reach on this medium large I'm riding, 467. So just classic kind of, I mean that's what kind of XC trail angles for short travel bikes have settled around in now, and it certainly felt great dropping in down there. One thing I would say, noticeable straight away, it's actually quite low at the front. I was thinking I hadn't dialed in my rebound properly. Thought the foot was packing there, but it's actually just quite a low bar. And not many spaces in there as standard. A lot of companies fit in higher bars now, and I don't think I've realised how much I've got used to it. But then, this Top Fuel is designed to be set up for occasional racing, and obviously the original Top Fuel was a proper, pure cross-country race bike. Just over the years, this is generation 4 now. Woo! Oh, I lost that, not really nicely. It's just got rowdier, slacker, longer travel. Morning!
Right, go for it, man.
And that's what's happening this year as well. It's while the angles and the travel in the default setting haven't changed. What you've got now is not only have you got that Mino chip that changes angle so you can steepen it up by half a degree to 66 degrees. All right, mate? But you can also change the progression on the shock now. So 14 or 19%, depending on where you have the nose of the shock, at the top or at the bottom. Tell you what, it's easier doing that than it is on the tandem. And I'm like I said, running it stock with, it used to have 15% progression. It's got 40% now, so tiny bit more linear. And it feels really good. Just tap off on the geometry. Different length chain stays on 3 different sizes, keep it proportional. It just feels really balanced and sorted on stage 1. Cheers! And the angles haven't changed a huge amount. And at first impressions, neither is the frame. In terms of layout, it's that classic fuel, rocker, linkage, ABP rear pivot. Oh, by the way, all the people go, looks like a slash. To be accurate, I think Trek moved to this on the liquid, or the original fuel. And before that, it was Turner using this layout on their burner in the early 90s. So you're going to get it right. I think, like forum cliche dudes, at least get your bike history correct. But she's turning in nicely on the infamous stage 2 switchbacks. Dropping in down the step. There you go, because you've only got 130mm travel. The nice thing is, the geo isn't changing too much under braking, and the whole bike just feels consistent and planted dynamically. And they've not really changed anything with the kinematic either. It's got fairly neutral levels of anti-squat, so peppy enough when you're pedaling, but it isn't forcing your feet forward on square edges. It's just, you know, bike of the year, isn't it? And it certainly feels a lot more like a proper trail bike because it's got full pivot setup than a twangy stay rear end, like, you know, Scott Spark, which I've tested on these tracks, or Spec Evo. But also, while it looks similar, Trek have actually done a lot of work on the structure of the frame. So the good news is, considering how much climbing there is today, they've saved on average, depending on frame size, around 200 grams off the frame. Some of that comes from getting rid of that knock block steering damper, so the bars are fully free range now. And they've tidied up the internal storage as well, so that's saved a bit, but most of it's actually come from slimming down the main tubes. And they've also done that to balance the ride out a bit better. And interestingly, as far as I can remember, all the previous bikes from Trek have always had one piece, very stiff, all right, rocker linkage. But now it's actually 2 pieces, so you've got left and right halves. So there's compliance all the way through this frame. And you can actually feel that in the grip levels on the back end, on off-camber sections like this, and woo, in the comfort as well.
Like, if it's going to rain.
Yeah. And they've also tidied things up internally with that storage as well. So the aperture is a bit bigger, still not huge. Compared to something like Specialized, still a bit of a fight getting it in there. And there's a new design of bag, so it's a little zip bag rather than a neoprene roll. So we've got more actual effective space rather than the bit being taken up by the bag. And they've sorted out the cable and hose trunking, so that's less likely to catch on the bags as well. But cable fans will be pleased to know it's still Got ports for wires as well as wireless, and complete banks come in both configurations, so SRAM, Axis and XT Shimano bikes. Oh yeah, and basic bit of admin, this is the alloy bike, this is the Top Fuel 9, this is the top spec alloy frame bike, and all those same details about the hatch, the rocker link, the geometry, they're all the same. Just obviously alloy frame is a fair bit heavier, but bikes and the frame sets, because they offer both alloy and carbon frame for sale separately, are a lot cheaper with alloy. Although to be fair, Trek frame sets are always pretty expensive compared to the complete bikes, which are generally a really good benchmark for reasonable value for money. Oh, here we go. Little climbing challenge. So, see how that, it's not a crazy steep seat angle, but steep enough so that when you get on the nose of the saddle, you've got good winching position, and even on loose stuff like that, decent traction at the same time, enough engagement through your legs to know what that rear tyre's doing. And the good news is, while the tyres are a bit growly on long tarmac climbs like this, at least you've got lockout front and rear for a proper bit of sit and spin or even stomp efficiency. But it's not hard lockout, so if you forget and leave it on and slap into something, it's not too much of a disaster. It'll still pop through and give you some travel. And what they have done with this Top Fuel, to reflect the fact that people are getting rowdier and rowdier on this category of bike, is they've kind of officially licensed it to put a longer stroke shock in, so 55 rather than a 50, so that takes the rear travel up to 130, and they're more than happy with you running a 140mm fork in it as well. Plus, with those Mino chips, cheers mate, you can run it mullet, 27.5-inch back wheel, and that slackens the angles off as well. Even with that chip in the high position, that gives you a 64.6 degree head angle. Obviously slackens off the seat angle a bit, so it's not quite as poised for climbing, but then if you're running mullet, probably not fretting much about climbing either. And they'll also take, hi lads, hope you have a quiet day. And it's also got space for most piggyback shocks. I mean, certainly Super Deluxe, Float X from Rock Shocks and Fox. You won't get a coil in there because that would mean they'd have to compromise the, all right mate, seat tube insertion, because that's another thing they've increased on this bike. Shorten the droppers, but not really, shorten the seat tubes, so you can run the longer stroke droppers as standard and a really big diameter seat tube as well, so you've got a large diameter stanchion on your dropper for stiffness and strength. So yeah, proper enduro size droppers on this bike, even though, you know, your Land and F raced the previous Top Fuel in a World Cup. And you got to remember, that was the heavier one, because that was the only real complaint I had about the previous Top Fuel, even though they're marketing it as a downcountry bike. It was pretty porky. And to be fair, this Alloy 9 still isn't light. It's 1467 for this medium large. In the alloy frame. So, still a fair bit of chunk. You can feel that when you're trying to accelerate it. You've got alloy wheels as well, these line 30 comps. So there is a bit of work to be doing to get the speed into it, but it feels super planted on these descents, very assured. All right, mate. But while that 1467 weight is obviously heavy compared to stuff like Specialized Epic Evo, Scott Spark, if you can start comparing it to 140, 130 bike, plenty of them over the 15 kilo mark, even with carbon frames. And the plan is to get the carbon Top Fuel frame. In fact, he's already on the way. As a platform to do a load of different builds on. So I'm going to do sort of short travel, cross country, and more long travel, burly. Might get a flight attendant on it as well. The RockShox Auto Lookout, because they range that in the US, but not in the UK yet. So that's going to become one of my long-term bikes, and I have to say, I'm really looking forward to it, because this bike's been an absolute gift on the trails today. Lovely balance of agility and capability. I'll save my breath now, because there's still a hell of a long way to the top. There's a couple of little crux points that'll be great to clear, because I've cleaned this far, which I'm proud of. See if I can do the rest. All right, here we go. Here's the moments of truth section. Already a chunk of climbing in my legs, so I'll get that excuse in early. Let's see how this ABP back end, because that is unique to Trek and DW Link bikes, the way that rear pivot is concentric to the axle. Come on, power, power, power. Yes, yes. Woo! Happy with that. Ha. Salvage some dignity from an otherwise slightly lackluster ride in terms of climbing. That's not the bike, that's just me. But yeah, that's the technical tenacity I was on about. Didn't feel like that was in doubt. Whew. Right, get my breath back. And I've already talked about these sturdy wheels, and it comes with 2.4-inch tyres, these new, well, it's a new name, looks a lot like the old XR4 tyre to me. They're calling it the Gunnison Pro now. And then, you know, it's a trail style build. GX, it's UDH hanging out as you'd expect, so you've got T-type on there for those slower, woo, but really assured shift. 1052, and then suspension, you've got box float performance on the back, which I'm doing my best to case the living daylights out of, and then the always awesome, simple but super dependable and surprisingly grippy box 34 rhythm. He does a double. Oh, I've got to say, this bike is an absolute riot down here. This is a proper license to get loose. 120, it does not feel like. This is a proper let it hang out and have a laugh bike. Yeah. Fly at those eyes. Come on, go, go. And these glistens, so far, really predictable. Very dry up here for Yorkshire, but yeah, feeling good so far. Yeah, this bike is, I'm loving it. Even this lower bar position, kind of working when I'm trying to keep it grippy through the turns. Feeling good. It's like your top fuel, caffeinated and garanarised.
Here you are.
Drop in a Red Bull.
We've got some
Cheers.
as well with some cans in if you want.
Oh, cheers. Is this got diluted or?
It's got a bit of water in, yeah.
Cheers. Cheers. Oh, enduro cough medicine. Don't normally do this, but Ard Rock's an exception.
Go on then.
Let's top me up with something a bit more sensible as well. And I actually had a really good chat with the designers of this bike before riding it. And Travis Brown, who used to be World Cup racer for Trek back in the day, and still does a lot of their development work. And the interesting thing was, a lot of the design team, although it's kind of got that burlier long shock capability, their emphasis, because all the kit they're fitting to these bikes is getting heavier and heavier, they really wanted to make that fuselage a lot lighter to reduce overall package weight. And not only was I delighted that they used the phrase fuselage, because that's what Klein used to call their frames way back in the day, but also, you know, for someone who is really a cross-country rider like me, and who, I mean, to be fair, the old Top Fuel, their published weights were realistic, and if you actually compared them to the actual weights of some other frames, they weren't actually bad at all. But it definitely put, oh, I imagine it, well, it put me off a little bit getting one as a, all right, long termer, because I like to have a bike that I can make really light. But what's interesting is a lot of the design team for this Gen 4 had actually done most of the work behind the Super Caliber race bike as well, and they've actually taken a lot of cues to the front end of this Gen 4 and the tube profiling, and it's got a bit more high modulus carbon in the mix as well, and that's how they've shaved most of the weight out of it. So although it's still on the heavier side of the downcountry XC spectrum, that capability is really, really impressive. I have to say, while trying to hang with e-bikes and the supernatural fitness that is Ryan, put me in a world of trouble at the start. Spinning up here past riders who've come up from the start after 3 hours riding really brings home how efficient this bike is. Tell you what, these new torque jellies are a bit moreish. Bloody expensive, but very moreish. So, that's new. Been top marked for the top fuel so far. There's got to be some negatives about it. I mean, I don't know whether it's just I've been getting too used to those new Peaties grips, but I am finding a lot of grips now, certainly basic ones. All right, mate. Pretty harsh, and that's definitely the case with these sort of ergon style Bonty ones on here, and I think this carbon bar is pretty solid, and also having the low rise, it definitely means it's great for committing the front end into off cambers like that. It's really easy to weight that front tyre, but the flip side is it's harder to get the nose off drops. And you know, one enduro, well, I'm quite confident in saying what I've said about the bike, not least because, you know, all bike testing is like an algorithm, really. You know, I've nearly always tested most of the elements, that was nice, of this bike before in different generations, so it's just a test of the latest iteration rather than it being something totally new. What was I trying to say in the first place? But, you know, obviously I've only tested these tyres in the dry, but I've certainly been fine in these conditions so far, and at the risk of flatting on the final stage, they've still got air in, and the wheels have been fine as well. Although in the past I have suffered relatively early hub death on Bontrager wheels, but on the plus side is I've got a nice quick pick up on them. So really it's only when you get to a point like here and I'm starting to feel it in the hands. All right, hope you have a quiet one. Starting to feel it in the hands. But apart from that, this bike is just, oh, and I've not tried the more progressive shock setting, because frankly I've not really pushed through to full travel. Wait, I might have done now on the shock as it is, so I'm not sure why you want more progressive, but you know, that's something I can explore further down the line when I get that carbon frame. But definitely view this as a trail bike that can do the XC, hey, all right folks, that can do the XC zoomies when you need it to, rather than an XC bike that needs careful treatment. So it's really nice line through here. Yeah, we got it. Hey, and it's just that frame balance is noticeable now, because bikes like the Slash used to be really stiff, proper punishing up the front end, and you can feel this is just like what the grips. I think it'd be even more obvious, but this is a lot smoother. Woo! Ah, and way and better traction, but overall it's just a brilliant example. Hey, that might have got full travel of that modern lightweight trail bike, and it's finally pretty lightweight too. Ard Rock 24, lap 1 done. So there we go, yet another absolutely awesome Ard Rock Enduro lap done. Like I say, these courses are only open during the race. Do not come up here and ride them outside the race weekend or without a number on, even if you are here at the race weekend, because it will just cause a huge amount of trouble to Joe We're very lucky for the farmers to give Joe permission to use these trails up here, use their land, and we do not want to jeopardise that. Joe's got a superb reputation with the farmers up here, so don't screw it up for everybody else. But, you know, they're perfect for showcasing just how capable a bike like this Top Fuel can be. But even by the category standards, this has been a proper flyer. It hasn't given me a moment of doubt whether it's been technical climbs or like proper tasty bits of enduro descending at a reasonable speed. I mean, you know, I'm no top flight racer, but you know, there's some bits where you catch it out. That's in the lower Mino link. Sorry, it's in the more forward Mino link, so the less progressive setting there. If you move it back, that makes it more progressive, and then you flip it upside down, and that changes the angles. But I'll do a full tech talk round on this bike separately. And look at that, it's dusty. The rain stayed off, so I won't even have to clean it, which is a bonus. But yeah, no, been absolutely flawless. Oh, the only one thing I didn't mention that did get pushed pretty hard, and I think that also contributed for the arm pump. These level brakes. There's the bronze level. It's the lightweight 4-pot cross-country brake, and they're kind of pushing it. It'd be nice to have a bit more stopping power on this bike, but you know, you could always upsize the front rotor if you want. That'd be the easy way of doing it. But otherwise, very clean bill of health in terms of the kit, and also the fact it's got that ABP pivot at the back. I didn't really talk about it in braking terms. That means a lot better braking traction as well. There's less brake jack and loss of traction going on because of that concentric pivot there than you get with most linkage or single pivot systems. So yeah, I mean, it's just a really, really well evolved bike, this now. And the fact that the latest evolution has added some practical touches in terms of extra versatility and dropped a significant weight. I mean, it's nigh on half a pound out of it. That's a fair chunk of weight, especially when pretty much everyone else seems to be going heavier. So, massive thanks to Trek for lending me this bike to test. Massive thanks to my other industry supporters, who will be all listed at the end, and if you could bear those guys in mind when you're shopping, that would be great, because obviously if you support them, they can support me. Huge thanks as always to my Patreon subscribers, who will be getting this edit early and ad-free like they always do, as a thank you for paying about a cup of tea and a biscuit's worth of money every month on Patreon and by subscription. Some of them are more generous and pay a bit more than that, and massive thanks to those guys, the investors. But yeah, if you really like what I'm doing on the channel, please consider clicking on that Patreon link on the end and ponying up some monthly cash. But if you haven't already clicked for notifications, do that. Thumbs up, like, subscribe, all that usual YouTube jazz. And hopefully I'll see you here for the next video, whether that's the tech talk around or I'll be riding another bike tomorrow, and plenty more bikes in the pipeline. But for now, I've been Guy Kesteven from Guy Kes TV, having an absolutely top time booling around in an enduro styly on the new Generation 4 Trek Top Fuel. I think this might be one of my favourite bikes of the year. And I think that carbon frame, I'm definitely excited for that to be sliding into my DMs shortly, because, you know, again, and I mean, alloy frames, it's always people always like an alloy frame when I review that, because they are heavier, but people just have more faith in alloy. Which is interesting, because actually carbon's in some way more repairable, because you can just slap a patch on it like an old canoe, whereas you can't really mend an alloy frame. But there are definitely people who prefer to ride an alloy frame. And like I say, this even, you know, this is lighter than quite a lot of carbon equivalents. And if you put, you know, a longer air spring in the fork and a longer stroke in the shock, then you're looking at a 140, 130 mil bike with, I think, you know, proper trail capabilities. So, very versatile, very, very good, very enjoyable. Top Fuel.